Hey guys, Josh from Shy here, and today I have for you my top 5 games of 2015. Doing a countdown of my top 5 games. So yeah, it's been a really good year for gaming. There's been tons and tons of games out. I haven't played as many of them as I would have liked to. And some of them I've played aren't in this list purely because they just didn't quite make it, or I haven't played enough of them. Some of which I only got recently. In fact, Assassin's Creed Syndicate I only got for Christmas, and I'm only just starting to play it, and I'm liking it. It's really good, so that's like a notable mention, but it's not quite my top 5 purely because I haven't played enough of it to give an opinion on it, but I'm liking it. It's definitely an improvement on last year's Unity. Another game which is sort of notable is The Elder Scrolls Online, which I played when it came out on PC. Kind of liked it, but only liked it because it was The Elder Scrolls. If it was its own IP, new setting, would have been very, very weak. I think the only thing keeping it going was the fact that it was an Elder Scrolls game in terms of the setting, and it was cool to go around Tamriel and all see familiar places and stuff, but other than that there wasn't much to keep you going. Whereas now, going back to it now, I'm playing it on PS4 with friends now, because I was playing it solo before on PC. It's much better to go with friends, doing dungeons stuff together, PvP, and just the general how much it's improved in the last year or so. It's definitely a much better game, so definitely a notable game. Anyway, it's time to get on with my top 5 games now. Enough talk about notable mentions. Here we go with number 5. Number 5 is Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin for PS4. Now, Dark Souls 2 has been out a while now, and I've always been terrified of playing Dark Souls games because they all... the first game had a Prepared to Die edition, which is like, oh my god. But, kept seeing so much about it, and Dark Souls 3 was doing its beta stress tests, and I was watching some footage of that, and I thought, it looks really, really nice. It looks gorgeous graphically. It looks like a really nice setting. Just the style of it and everything looks really, really nice, and just, yeah, like a really interesting game. And so I was like, you know what? Dark Souls 2 on PS4 was about 20 quid. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to grab it and see how I go with it. Got some friends on PS4 who helped me quite a bit with it, going through, doing co-op in it. Get me through quite a lot of some of the moments, although some of them I did on my own. Some of them they forced me to do on my own. I had some terrible moments of crying, getting through some enemies. But yeah, loved it. It looks gorgeous. Like, the graphics are just lovely. The style and everything of it is really, really nice. And yes, it's hard, but it's hard in the way of that you need to know enemy patterns and how to maneuver around them and how to dodge and how to know what to do, basically. It's hard because you can get killed so easily, but you can get killed easily by anything. But if you're knowing how to maneuver around enemies, then you can get through them reasonably okay. So yeah. It's hard, but if you get into it and know what you're doing, it's not that hard. It's still a very good game. So that's number 5. Now for number 4. Number 4 is Tales from the Borderlands. Now, I did a playthrough of this on my channel. Link is in the description. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I've never properly played a Telltale game before. I've played the demo for Walking Dead and liked it, but never really got around to playing it. In fact, I think I got it, I just haven't played it. I think I got it at the Steam sale once. So yeah, I love Borderlands, so I was like, I think Tales of Borderlands was on offer or something. It's like 6 quid. I was like, you know, I'm going to grab it, I'll give it a go, and I might as well do it on my YouTube channel. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. The characters are just really, really interesting, funny characters. Character development over the episodes, sort of the relations between the characters. The choices and how it affects the story, and also the story itself is really, really good. Really interesting story. Quite surprising actually how much it was really major what happened in the story. Like, Tales from the Borderlands seemed like it was just going to be like a side thing. It wasn't really that interesting, but wasn't really that important to the main sort of series. But it's really important to the main series. Like, they bring back Handsome Jack in like a hologram form, and he basically tries to take over Helios again. And Helios blows up. I'm not going too much into it, but yeah, it's a major thing, bringing back a major character from the main series, killing off another major character, which I was quite surprised with. But yeah, much more in depth than I thought it was going to be in terms of being part of the main series. But yeah, loved it. Like I said, characters really loved it. Style of it, the humour was really good. Clever humour, not normal Borderlands taking the piss out of Claptrap for being stupid humour. There was actually some decent humour in that. Yeah, loved it. Like I said, there's a playthrough on my channel, you can check that out. And I will definitely be checking out some more Telltale games. Like I said, I haven't played many of them. I got Game of Thrones in the Steam sale. That's not going to be anything like Tales from Borderlands in terms of the humour. Definitely not. It's Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones anyway. So that might be coming soon on the channel. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, Tales from Borderlands, loved it. Now it's time for number 3. Number 3 is Destiny, The Taken King. Now, Destiny last year I think was my number 5 or 4. Because at its core it was amazing. It had this really cool world it set up, the mechanics of it, the shooting was lovely, you know, it felt awesome to play, but it just didn't have that pull that it should have had. It didn't have the sort of lore and the story that should have been there. It had this awesome massive world that was just begging to have so much lore behind it, and it just wasn't really there. It really, you sort of had to, there a lot of people kind of come out with their own stuff based on what was in like those little Grimoire cars and stuff, and it was kind of people putting together the lore in the background, which for a game like it is, really shouldn't have been, it should have been in quite in your face. The Taken King fixed that, and it fixed that in a major way. Yes, it's a DLC, and yes, it's slightly overpriced, but it was definitely more than the average DLC. I played The Taken King for weeks, far longer than I played Destiny itself, and you know, I can play DLC more than the main game. That's telling you something. Loved it. Story was really interesting, definitely more interesting than the main game. It had cutscenes now, it had actual story, they changed the way the game worked, like you've actually got quests now rather than just the missions you do. You actually have quests, and you have a quest log with stages and just general lore. They had characters just talking to you in cutscenes and stuff. It was just generally a lot more interesting and a lot more involving, and made it feel a lot more in depth than the main game was. And also around that time is that I got back talking to people I hadn't talked to for ages from my Xbox 360 days. So started playing, actually doing it with online with other people as well, people I was talking to, doing the strikes, and of course the new raid. The new raid was amazing. Killing Oryx was so satisfying after hours of fighting through the various bosses up to Oryx himself, and the mechanics around it is really good. I think in terms of that is just, nothing can compare really with Destiny's raid. The raids they have right now are just so good. One of the best co-op experiences out there right now, definitely. Yeah, just loved it. The story's really good. It's ongoing. But again, I've kind of dipped out of it now, but that's not a problem. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with sort of playing it for a massive amount of time, for like a month or two solid, and then kind of drifting away, and then coming back. They're doing DLC for free now. They're kind of doing a model of microtransactions for cosmetic stuff to keep things going, and then they're doing major expansions I think they're charging for. But in the meantime, they're doing DLCs, which are going to have story missions, and I think there's another raid possibly coming. Destiny's, you know, some strikes and that coming. There's new content that's going to be sort of put in every now and then, and I'll play it as it comes out, and I'm fine with that. People say, oh, Destiny doesn't hold you for more than a few weeks. Well, what game really does? Yes, some games do that, but I think I'm quite happy. I want to play other games. I'm quite happy with playing the Destiny for a few weeks and then going away. That's perfectly fine with me. So that's definitely why it's in my number 3 this year, higher than last year because of how much it's improved, and also how a game can still be in my top 5. Even when it's just a DLC. Yeah, love Destiny, Taken King. Like I said, not playing it anymore at the moment, but we'll definitely be going back to Destiny as the more DLC comes out. Now it's time for number 2. Now, I've spoken a lot now already, but these last two are going to take a bit of time to get through. Number 2 is Fallout 4. Now, there were 2 big RPGs this year. You can probably guess which one the other one is, which I adored, and it was very difficult to decide what was going to be on my number 1 out of these two. Fallout 4 was amazing. It was a really good game. It was definitely a lot smoother a launch than previous Fallout, and even, Elder Scrolls games has been. I'm a massive Elder Scrolls and Fallout fan, and so the hype was ridiculously high for me for this game, and it delivered. It really did delivered. I hadn't had a game for a while when I've actually smiled whilst I'm playing it. That's how good it was for me. Like, everything about it. The story was actually really good and interesting for once, which for Bethesda games are kind of, they got an okay main story, but they're never that amazing. Whereas this was a pretty good story. It had a lot of moral stuff to do with the robots, the AI, and about whether they could be considered living beings and do they have rights, or are they just kind of tools, sort of like slaves. That was really good. Really good story. The side stuff was really interesting. The world looked gorgeous. Just everything about that, just exploring. There's still stuff I haven't done in it. But yeah, love that. Crafting system with the weapons. You can upgrade your weapons and actually putting on upgrades that kind of actually show up on the guns themselves, which is quite cool. Sometimes in games you get an upgrade, it's like, oh, you just have an upgrade. No, it does more damage, whereas in Fallout it's like actually the barrel got longer. There's so many different combinations and you could rename weapons, and it was really cool. And some of them were really interesting, like the Fat Man, you could have it so you could fire like multiple shots without having to reload. Just really cool that was. And then like the sort of settlement system, building a settlement basically in depth as like the Sims, basically, in terms of putting down the walls, generators, floors, ceilings, stairs, not windows, you can do windows sadly, that's one thing that bugged me, but just electricals, lights everywhere, stalls you could put up, like little vendors you can set up and assign people to sell stuff, food things, music, jukeboxes and radio stations to play radio around. You saw my settlement video, you might have. The depth of that was crazy. Like, it overwhelmed me at first, and that it was like, whoa, there's so much here for me to do with just building settlements and then defending them, and all my other settlements have gone to shit. Sanctuary is the only one I concentrated on, but I love Sanctuary and what I did with it. Maybe someday I'll go around and try and sort out the other settlements I have. There's got so many dotted around the map, and they're all just kind of got a couple of people at them who just kind of got no fucking defense or anything. But yeah, that was amazing and so new, actually. That combined with the world, exploring it, I love Fallout anyway, so the lore and everything of it and the style of it. Music was awesome. I liked how it was a bit more colourful now. The new Pip-Boy was cool. The story, like I said, was amazing. Side stuff was actually better than previous games. Lovely. Now, the reason this is number 2, not number 1 for me, is that it didn't quite hold me as long as Skyrim did. Skyrim I can remember playing for months, like on and off. I remember going back to it. I got it in like when it came out in November, and the following like February I can remember playing it. And so I don't know what happened there. Why I didn't play Fallout as long. Fallout, I was done with it within about 2 weeks. Lovely time with it, but I was really like, I'm done with it for now until DLC start coming out and until the possible mod support for consoles, which is going to be quite interesting, comes out. I'm done with Fallout 4. Which is quite sad, really, and which is why it's number 2. And the reason number 1 is because of number 1 held me so much more and kept me wanting more. So now let's move on to number 1. My game of the year 2015 is, of course, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. What can I say? Fallout 4 was basically like taking the best of what Bethesda does and just improving it. What CD Projekt Red did with The Witcher was basically just redefining RPGs, how they work, and basically just the way it works is really weird to describe it, but just the way, like, you could do a side story thing. Basically, like, you're investigating where, I suppose there's plenty of spoilers out now. You're investigating where Ciri's gone. You talk to the Red Baron. It's Red Baron, isn't it? Or Blood Baron? It's Red Baron. Maybe it's Blood Baron. Anyway, the Baron guy. You talk to him to find out where Ciri's gone. And he sends you on your way to find her, I think. But he also tells you how he's got this problem with his missing daughter. Oh, that's it, yeah. He wants you to help you find his daughter, and then he'll tell you where Ciri is, right? You then proceed to go on about 6 hours of side content helping him find his daughter. And it's not just a simple, searching around for leads. It's a genuine, really interesting, heartfelt story for 6 hours as a side content just to find a guy's daughter, which in any other RPG would just be, oh, my daughter's gone missing. I think she went in that cave over there, and you go and search around, you fight enemies, and you find her and bring her back. In this, it was incredibly in-depth, up to a point that then it just kind of stops, and it's like, oh, okay. And he's like, you're like, oh, you find a daughter, and then his wife's still missing though, and the daughter doesn't want to go back to him. So you're like, oh, that's over, okay then. So then you start carrying on your leads, you're trying to find Ciri. You go to this place where there's this weird woman looking after his children, and then all of a sudden you start realising that she is in fact the Baron's wife, and it's completely disconnected, and it brings it all back together again hours later to a side quest you did. And it was just really, really, I'm not going to spoil the ending of that quest. Well, there are multiple endings of that quest anyway. Like I said, there's multiple endings of side quests. That's how in depth it was. And yeah, it was quite heartfelt, and I was generally quite upset with the ending to that side quest I got, let alone the main story. And that's just one of them. There was multiple side quests like this that were just so in depth with the way they worked. Just crazy. And the main story itself was really, really, really good. Just a really good story. It gets you going around the world, which is massive. Ciri is awesome. I love Ciri. The ending, I was really satisfied with that. I got the ending when she's basically the Empress. I was quite pleased with that ending. But yeah, Geralt is awesome. He's a badass. Just the way you can upgrade him. Just the level of detail of him. I got like the Ursine armor. I got the top one of that. So I spent a few hours getting that. Like I said, I think I spent about 80 hours on Fallout 4, but The Witcher 3 I spent a good 100 to 150 hours. I don't know how many exactly I spent, but yeah, I spent a lot more time with The Witcher 3 over a longer period of time. I played it for a good month or two. Loved it. Get to play DLC. Really want to do that. But yeah, Witcher 3 was amazing to me. Definitely my game of the year. I've still got tons to do in it as well. I haven't done some of the contracts, and I think there's a couple of side things I missed. The music, the settings, the graphics, everything about The Witcher 3 was perfect for me this year. That is why it's my game of the year. Over Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was amazing, but Witcher 3 was just that little bit more better, and also so redefining of how to do a game. Not just RPGs, how to do a game. Just the way you can do a story in a game, especially, I love narratives in games. I love Mass Effect, and The Witcher 3 absolutely shits on Mass Effect in terms of how it does its story. It does it so good. And yeah, loved it. So that's my top 5 games of 2015. Hope you enjoyed my opinions. Let's see what the next year has in store for us. I will be doing a most anticipated games of 2016. That'll be coming in a few days. Be a bit more brief than this video, but mainly just sort of coming out with talking about what my sort of hype games are for next year. So I will see you then, guys. Bye bye.
I will follow into the storm to find your heart, its passion displaced by our ever-growing, hardening into stone, amidst the cold to hold you